now. Can you guys hear me? Oh wow, no sound. Sorry, let me repeat that. So, hello everyone. Again, as I was introducing myself, my name is Yawar. Can you hear me now? Yes? I should be able to hear me now. Sure. That sounds interesting. I just checked it. Stop. Maybe it's not because of number 90, was it? Maybe it's around 160. Okay, let's check this out now. Voice issue, nerede şuraydı böyle? Çok benziyor. Is it still the demon or am I sounding okay?
Hello, this is the real Terminator speaking. Can you hear me? Hello. I've been informed that this is it. Now it's fixed. Now please somebody confirm that you can hear me. And there yes, there's a curse. No, there isn't a curse. Surely you can hear me now, right? No? Hello. You still can't hear me. Now it's okay. Sure? Woo! We figured it out. Okay, good, excellent. Okay. Yes, now it is possible to have a civil conversation. Now, I can assure you I don't have any leaks, but what I have is some great tips for you. And now that you can hear me and I can see that you can hear me, I would like to officially welcome you on behalf of our academy to this, our first business session, and this one particularly is for paper one. And no amount of money can entice me to give you the leaks, but look, with the tips that I give to you, I promise you these leaks you won't need. You will end up saving your 50,000. Go for I don't know, get yourself new shoes. So save the money, and let's talk about what we're here to do. So we're here because on Monday you guys will be appearing for your paper one exam, and I know that some of you are used to 2x, and I guess that's okay. Sometimes you want to hear things faster, sometimes you slow it down. So what I'm going to do today is slow it down a little bit, and try to get you in that focus that you need before you sit into your P1 exams. Right now, up to this point, what you would have done is, of course, gone through your syllabus, and so far the worry has been mostly about, do I know the entire syllabus or not? How do I know that I know it? When do I know that I'm ready for the exam? So what I'm going to show you today is first how to dissect the entire paper, first understand what the requirements are from it, and then make sure that we try to meet the requirements that the examiners have from us. And What I'll start with doing is, and we'll answer questions, of course, just a few to give you a feel of what you should be doing. But the objective of this session today, what I had planned in my mind is, by the end of this session, you should be aware that when you sit for your exam and the clock starts and the announcement goes, you may begin your paper, you shouldn't have to worry about what my answers will look like. What do I have to think when I see an 8 marker? What do I have to think when I see a 5 marker? those sort of lingering doubts should be out of your mind before you sit in the exam. And that's what my plan is for today, is to take away any doubts from the fact that, from getting that confidence that I'm ready, and just give me that paper, give me those topics, give me those definitions. I know what I have to do, and I am ready to make a difference in my life. So that's the point that I want to make all of you reach today. And let's get into it. Right, you here, I've already caused a few delays with my sound, but actually it was my Terminator self. Sometimes it takes over and it likes to talk to people, but now it's me. And let's get into it. Yeah, so we're here to figure out what's going to appear in our exams, how we're going to figure out what to write for 2 mark questions, 5 mark questions, 8 mark, 12 mark. You're going to see 5 types of questions, right, for paper one. And it's important to know what each question asks from you, what the examiner's requirements are, before you actually start figuring out what to do. Okay. Yeah, so you guys can still hear me, right? I've just switched screens, so I just want to make sure before I go on that it's all fine. As you can tell, I'm quite new to this. Where do you go? Uh, there we go. Hello, I'm right here. So the leaks, the shortcuts, the tips that you're looking for, I want to start with that first. And what I have for you is a little document that I will also be making available on our platform right after this. So I worked on it. I've given this a lot of thought. And what this document does is that it gives you the key to unlock anything that can come in your paper. So I will take you through this and explain how to use this for your exam coming up. But before I explain to you what the art of writing a good paper one answer is, let me just compare it to a concept that you already know. Because if you understand through that perspective, you will know exactly how I think when I'm writing answers. And what I'm going to do today is literally put my brain on a plate for you. This is how I process any information, any question that is asked of me from my students. This is the way I approach it. Now, you all know that in business, a business makes money by selling a product, right? And when it comes to making a product, one thing that you absolutely have to guarantee is quality. Right? Without that, we know no customer is going to buy a product. So we gotta give something to the customer. Now, when you get into your A2s, and that's where you will see quality in a little bit more detail, you will learn that quality is actually a result of two things. One thing that the producer, which is the seller, the business in scenario, would want, and the other is what the consumer or the buyer wants. So there are two sides to quality. In terms of your producers, they want certain standards. They want that their product should be of some minimum thresholds, minimum quality assurances that we want to give to our customer. For example, we want to give quality A levels education, which is fun, interactive, good to work with, and that's what we want across the board, right? But at the same time, if that product does not meet my customers' expectations, so you guys expect A's, you guys expect explanations, you guys expect details, you guys expect us to be there with you all along, and if we don't do that, then you wouldn't call that a quality product, right? So quality is critical to a product. Now take the same concept, but this time instead of thinking of a product, I want you to think about your answers that you're going to write in your exams. right? Now, the moment you start treating your answers as a product, and the moment you start wondering about how can I bring the best quality into it, and the moment you figure that out, that what is quality in an answer, that's where you start forcing your examiner to start thinking of giving you full marks, giving you that A that you need. And how do you process that? When it comes to an answer, the two stakeholders in that is obviously one side is your examiner, the person reading it, and one side is you, the candidate. So for any answer, there are two sides. And unless both parties are happy with what the answer looks like, you're not going to get the desired results. So what the examiner wants is obviously they have certain expectations. Remember, they're the ones receiving the product in this scenario. And their expectations are explained in plain English, and they go over it over again. You would have heard me talk about it, your teachers, anywhere, and they come in 4 simple words: knowledge, application, analysis, evaluation. And that's what I'm going to focus on today largely, is how do you figure out what does the examiner want? What are the expectations? And actually the expectations are just this: tell us whether you know the concept, can you explain, apply it, can you analyze, and all of those things. Those things are what the expectations are. Now, that's just one half of the story. Remember, quality is two-sided. You can give them what they want, but as candidates, you also have certain responsibilities. You also have expectations from your answers. And that's where your personal standards, meaning the way you write your answer, the way you frame them, the way you format them, that's what's going to make the difference between a good answer and a great answer. And what we know is that what we simply need for these is a certain format, certain way of writing, certain way of essay constructions. And that's what we're going to learn. What my focus on was going to be on today is this part. How do you as candidates bring that quality in your answer that the examiner wants? It's their expectations. And what we are also happy with in terms of giving it is our best version of this answer. If you can find this balancing point, my friends, that's where lies that promised land. That A star is going to fall down from the heavens. It's going to rain A stars. But I can only do it for business. So at least for business, that's what my objective is going to be for today's session. And the good thing is that the same expectations and the same standards repeat for paper 2, they repeat for paper 3, repeat for paper 4. So you learn it once, you keep it for life. And that's what I'm going to go to now. That how do we bring that quality in an answer that all examiners are looking for? So coming back to this document, how to master the art of answering paper 1. There's a lot of words in here that you don't need to worry about right now. But what you do is, and start and always take an extra minute to plan your answers. Maybe not the 2 markers, because those are your easy definitions, but anything beyond that. Always take an extra minute to divide the question into the writing skills. We'll come to that in a minute. What are the writing skills? How much of it you need? But you need to give yourself that extra, that moment of pause for planning. Once you know what each question requires in terms of its writing skills, then you need to identify how many marks are attached with it and match the required template needed for answering the question. Okay. Now there are 2 sides to the equation, right? One side is, I will discuss new topics for him. I will discuss lots of things. So one side is identifying what the examiner wants. They tell you that by telling you the number of marks. And then you have to decide how you're going to finish up that answer and finish it in such a format that it fits the requirements of the exam. It has to be like a hand and a glove. And the way to do that is, and I brought it down to a very, very simple, easy to remember table here. Okay, stuff that you may have seen in places, but here it's all come together, and this is your best chance, I would say, of making sure that you're forcing the examiner to give you full marks in every question. So what do you do? And each time, this is how you process it. First thing you do, and there's 2 levels to each process of planning. First, identify the number of marks, and let's say you start with the first question, that's 2 marks. You will see that it always starts with the command word of define. we know that to be simply mentioning facts about a concept that you have heard about, you've seen, you know, and the examiner wants to know where your level of understanding. Now, whenever it's a 2-mark question, starts with the word define, what you need to do is include 2 points. Okay? Now, that does not mean 2 full sentences. What it means is 2 facts about the concept that helps you to put a definition to it. And the way to do it is that what they're looking for, what you're being graded for, so the examiner expectation, that part of the quality of your answer is this. Any 2 points about knowledge, any 2 things that you know to be facts about those questions, that's what you do here in these 2-mark questions, right? So how do you then apply this? How do you use this when you see this in your exam? Let me show you that first. And what I've done here is I've picked the latest year, so June 2024, paper 1-2. I've picked that paper and I've just presented it over here. And what you see in your paper 1 is obviously section A, and section A will have 3 2-mark questions. So you can see listed down here, question 1A, question 2A, and question 3A will all be 2-mark questions. Now you learn to answer one of them, you know how to answer all 3 of them. And what I just explained to you, first identify the number of marks. We know that to be 2. If you know it's 2, recall in your mind. What that means is I need 2 points of knowledge. And as long as I do that, as long as I mention any 2 things about that concept, anything I can remember from my book, from my notes, from anyone who's ever talked about it, that's going to be enough for me to answer this. And in your mind, this is the structure that you should have. The 2 layers, whether that's 1 sentence with 2 points or 2 different sentences with 2 different points, that's equally fine. So let me do one for you, right? So in this question, they ask us to define the term takeover. Right? Now we know takeover to be part of growth. That's chapter 3 for you. And takeover is particularly discussed in external growth. So even if I just mention this is a type of external growth, that is one fact about this concept. And that makes up the part of the definition. So I could simply write that takeover, that's too thick. Takeover is a type or method, either way, of external growth. And at the moment I write that, in my mind, I'm thinking KN1 is done. Now, if I can bring in another layer, another fact about what takeovers are, then that should do it. And this is where you should definitely bring in that this is where one business buys out is important. That means completely bought, buys out all the assets of another business. And just doing that should do the job for you. So 2-mark questions, simple, make 2 layers, both of knowledge. Don't need to worry about linking it to a business. Don't need to talk about the advantages, disadvantages. Don't need to give your judgments. These are simple questions. And the thing to remember is that for a 2-mark question, you will have a maximum of 3 minutes. So when you're doing all of these together, this should equate to exactly 9 minutes is what it should take you to do all your 2-mark questions. Of course, they're not given together, but as a whole, that's how much time you have. So the way to simply know is that in paper 1, for every 1 mark, you have about 1 minute and a half. So you simply multiply by that and you know how much time. And it's good for your own practice when you're doing it at home as well. Okay, so that's how to attempt 2-mark questions. Yeah, so you could have mentioned hostile, or so another point could have been that there are this could be it could be done through a hostile or friendly takeover. So any two things that you can recall about that concept, that should do it. So if I'm the examiner, let's say you write this one and this one, I'm saying, oh, that's okay. That's one knowledge. That's another knowledge. There's no reason for me to not give this student 2 marks. So what you're doing here is that you identify the requirements, so the expectations of the examiner, And this is the format, this is the template, this is your own best work out there. And it's the combination of those two that, my friend, is the difference. Okay? So 2 markers, hopefully simplified for you a little bit. But remember, as the number of marks go up, two things are also simultaneously go up. One, the level of difficulty, and two, the level of expectations the examiner has from your answers. And what I mean by that is that as soon as you spot a 3-mark question, you will notice that it starts with the word explain, which means that you don't have to show your knowledge of the concept. If the knowledge was being tested, they would ask a simple defined question. But here they want you to go a little bit deeper into the concept. And the question will also mention explain the word one. So explain one factor, one impact, one advantage, one disadvantage. So that's the big change from 2023, is that they specify how many marks you need to, how many points you need to talk about in your answer. So here they will mention 1 point, and well, something with my screen. Sorry guys. I apologize for this. Just some little bit of. Oh, there we go. So, is this all right? Sorry, just give me a moment, guys. Let me just fix this. Okay. Okay. We're back.
Back now?
Yeah, we're back. Thank you.
एक second. One thing to I'm just telling you कि I think when you're shifting screens ना आप mute होते जा रहे हैं. तो maybe when you shift a screen, mute and unmute again.
Okay.
ताकि audio आ जाए.
अब मैं शिफ्ट ही नहीं करूँ, बस मैं
I think it's better if you keep
Yeah,
that.
yeah. All right. Sorry, guys. So I just wanted to make sure that you're seeing exactly what I want to show you. Right. So coming to again that discussion of 3-mark questions, it will start with the obviously 3 marks with the word explain. You'll have 1 point to talk about, but that 1 point needs to have these 2 layers in it, which are 1 layer of knowledge and 2 layers of application. Okay. If you're not doing this, often what students do is that they write really lengthy definitions in a 3-mark question. And that's just the wrong way to approach it, because if they were looking for a definition, then they would start with the word define. And if you are and if you look at it in the other way, if you're including definitions in your answers, then you're not meeting the requirements of the examiner. So we often wonder, sir, we wrote full mark, we explained the whole concept, they didn't give us marks, because you explained what they weren't looking for. So what they're looking for is a part of knowledge, and it's very important to understand that in a 3-marker, this knowledge is not a definition. That's a big mistake that students make, thinking that just writing definition means I've gotten my 1 mark for knowledge. Here, the knowledge is any advantage, disadvantage, reason, drawback, and the question will tell you, the words will tell you. And I'll show you an example of a 3-marker from the same paper. And here it is, 3-mark questions. And if you notice, the questions, let's look at the second one, okay? Explain 1 benefit to a business of internal recruitment. Okay, now it very clearly asks for 1 point, and that's what we're going to talk about, right? It also tells you what to talk about, which is the benefit. So mentioning that benefit and not mentioning the definition means that you are rightly approaching the point about knowledge. If you write knowledge definition, once again, I'll remind you, it does not count as knowledge. So for example, when I'm answering this question, to start off as part of my knowledge, I'll simply mention that one benefit of, I'm just going to call it IR, internal recruitment, is that it reduces the need for induction training. Right? Now, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. You don't need to mention definition in 3 markers. The examiners aren't looking for that. They're looking, if you can, they're looking for your ability to identify what the question is looking for, first of all. And the question is very clear in its wording. It says explain one benefit. They're not asking you to explain internal recruitment, are they? Right? Even if you read the question again, in light of what I'm telling you right now, it will become apparent to you that yes, they're not asking us for a definition. They're asking me to explain what one benefit is to a business of internal recruitment. So that's the expectation of the examiner. That's what they're going to mark you for. You know what I mean? So mentioning this, notice that this is not a definition, but rather a benefit that I know is a fact of induction of internal recruitment. So if I have the right knowledge, only then will I be able to then continue on with my answer. And my answer requires that I'd say one line or one statement for knowledge, but then I also need to bring in at least 2 layers in application. So my question is this, right? One benefit to a business, and what I mean to talk about is induction training. So whatever you talk about in the next part of your answer should revolve around induction training. What students do most, obviously, I mean, this is not uncommon, but I don't know how many of you may have that habit. So they would write the definition, and after that they will talk about a completely different point because there's nothing else to talk about after the definition, right? I mean, what do you say after the definition? If you do this correctly by mentioning induction training, you now have a basis for the next part of your answer. So what you're doing here is you're simply building on this knowledge, meaning you're going to build on induction training. And absolutely right, Ramesh is right on point. He's saying that, look, there is no cost of recruitment. So let's talk about that point also, Ramesh. I like that. So let's say let's say I said one benefit is that it reduces your recruitment cost. Right? If this was my point, if this is my plan for the answer, then what I need to do is I need to explain this in a business context. Right? That's what application is. How will the business see it? Look, often students get confused between application and analysis. And I noticed that was a question earlier as well. Right? Understand that application is whatever concept you're going to talk about in your answer. For example, we're going to talk about internal recruitment and recruitment costs. So whatever you're going to talk about, can you tell us how a business will see it happening? What's the scenario that's going to be created within the business? What are the things that business will see changing? What are the things that business might see increasing or decreasing? It's not about the benefits and drawbacks. The moment you talk about the advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons, advantages, disadvantages, that's when you start the analysis part of your answer. But until you're just setting up the answer, look, I know what internal recruitment is, I know what recruitment cost is, let me show you how this happens in a business. And you don't need to mention the name of a business or, of special big brands that Apple did this and then Microsoft did that. Simply in business terms, you simply need to explain that, look, whenever HR goes through internal recruitment and blah, blah, blah happens, and this is what the business will see happening inside it. And because of those changes, when you talk about the advantages and disadvantages, that then becomes the analysis of your answer. So those layers, you need to know where those layers end and where the next one begins. Only then will you know that I've talked about application and I've talked about analysis. Okay, let me show you what I mean here. So what I know already, that I've mentioned internal recruitment and I've mentioned recruitment costs. So I need to show how these two things will be changing within a business. That's what I need to show as a scenario. But the question does not ask for an analysis. This is a 3-mark question. So I don't need to show the advantages, disadvantages, and all that. I just need to show what happens. So what happens with internal recruitment is that, first of all, there is no need for advertising the job. Right? That's the immediate impact of internal recruitment. That, look, we know this guy is sitting next door. We can get him to do the job. Then why advertise? So if you don't advertise, that's the first layer of your application. But remember, a 3-marker requires 2 layers of application. And you build on this point. If there's no need for job advertising, there is quick selection and work can begin, or the worker can start with their job immediately. Okay? Which means there is no or zero loss of productivity. Right? Now notice that whatever I'm talking about here is basically a more detailed version of induction training. What I'm saying is, since somebody is getting, there's no need to advertise, which means that quick selection, and since there is no induction training, what the business sees is that we're not losing any output. The worker can come in and start without us losing productivity. Okay. Now, if this was a 5-mark question or an 8-mark question, then I would need to include then the analysis. For example, the analysis of this would be, and this is just to show you what I mean. If I was analyzing this, then I would say, since there's no productivity loss, that means that it improves our efficiency. Efficiency means that we can look to increase our output, and more output means that you can sell more. Right? That would only be important if this was a 5-mark question or an 8-mark question which asks for analysis. But the question is simply explain. And I've explained what a benefit of internal recruitment is. So when I read this together, this will become like, one benefit for internal recruitment is that it reduces the need for induction training. Since there is no need for advertising the job externally, there can be quick selection of the worker, and he or she can begin work immediately with 0 or no loss of productivity. So this is all one point. Everything is connected here. The difference is that now we know that what it takes to make a 2-mark, 3-mark answer. One layer of knowledge, and that knowledge then leads into the later parts of your application. Right. So I got a little excited, carried away there, and missed all these lovely comments. Let me see what you guys are saying. Got another point B, decrease cost, and then you say this because there's no need for. Okay, so when you say that there is a decrease in cost, any discussion of decrease in cost means you're going into analysis. Talk about things that are happening before that. For example, reduces the recruitment cost because you don't have to bring in candidates for interview, for example. So explain the steps first. What are the things that the business will have to do? Because this question requires you to do that more than explain the advantages and disadvantages, right? Internal promotion, staff, higher level manager. So we can say recruitment cost is reduced due to internal promotion of staff or high level manager to post required. Yeah. So this part that you say about, high level manager to the post required, this would be knowledge. Like you're explaining what the benefit is, but then you'll have to show it in application that how this happens in a business. If a clothing manufacturer that needs a new manager can recruit a worker within the business who have more than 10 years in the business, the business should not have to retrain. Yeah, absolutely. That would be perfect to explain the induction training part. Do I recommend adding an example here? No, not at all. So in a 3-mark question, once you identify the knowledge part, then you simply explain that. They're not looking for your understanding of the concept so much in this. And remember, that's for your knowledge questions. In your knowledge questions, which are your 2-mark questions, there you can include an example, no problem. But here they want you to focus on the point that you've highlighted as being the one benefit. sorry, as being the one benefit. Where to go? Yeah, so the one benefit to a business, they want you to stay focused on this point. Absolutely. So right, so it's more, I guess, more focused. The knowledge questions which are defined, they can be open ended. Anything you feel is right for knowledge can be included. Good. Yeah, Shamir, that could be a part of its application, but not the only application. So if you had another layer in it, so for example, you say, since internal recruitment reduces the time for bringing in the worker, that time can be used to motivate employees, or that time can be used to provide non-financial rewards and other things. So have something concrete, and use specific words. Don't use words like whatever and generally and those guys and at things. They're looking for specific business terms. That's what you're getting marks for. Okay, so just I was saying that the application part is a continuation of the knowledge part that you identify. That's the important takeaway from this 3 marker, is that whatever you mention as being the one benefit, what you need to do is explain that further in your answer, that how is the business seeing this change occurring within it. So when this happens, how does internal recruitment lead to no induction training? That journey, mapping that journey for a business is what application is. And that's what I've done here. Since you've gone for internal recruitment, there is no need for advertising, which means quick selection, which means no productivity is lost. Isa, for your examples, right? The examples are obviously all right for your 2-mark questions, and maybe in an 8-mark question. Okay, but again, the examples don't add as much value as getting the right knowledge, application, analysis, and all of this are probably more important. So usually examples are for those situations where you are running out of points. So you would come up with a real life example and try to explain your knowledge. But knowledge is a smaller part of your marks as you go on in your paper. So in 8 marks, knowledge is 2 marks. For a 12 mark, it's still just 2 marks. So focusing too much on knowledge in the later questions is not so advisable, if you know what I mean. Okay. So I hope that just gives you a clue of how to go about answering your 2 and 3 mark questions that we've discussed so far. Next up, I want to discuss your 5 mark question. Okay, and the beauty of the 5 and 8 mark questions is that they are identical except for one little change. And the only change is that in a 5 mark question, you have to write about 1 point. In an 8 mark question, you just have to include 2 points. CAIE have been very nice to us. Look, I'm going to congratulate you guys to be born in the year that you were born in, because up until a couple of years ago, the exams were a little bit more difficult, especially when you go into A2. Now the exams they've reduced the amount of writing that you need. They've reduced the amount of reading that you have to do. They've reduced the complexity and the difficulty levels of the questions as well. So I do think that you are lucky, and with the knowledge of this, hopefully I'm confident that you will be able to do well. Anyway, so what I was saying was that 5 and 8 mark questions are identical except for the number of points. So what I'm thinking of doing is that I'm going to talk about both, but I'm going to answer the 8 marker. And what that means is that once we know how to answer an 8 mark question, we automatically know how to answer a 5 mark question. Okay, so I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So for a 5 mark question, the requirement or the first word that you would see, and likewise for an 8 marker, would be analyze and analyze, right? And that should be the biggest clue right away, that in this question, I don't just need to limit myself to knowledge and application. I will have to show some analysis as the command word is asking me to do so. Now, if it were a 5 mark question, it would require just 1 point. Okay, in the papers before 2023, they wouldn't mention how many points, but since 2023, they mention 1 point in 5 marker and 2 points in 8 markers. So if you are practicing from the past papers from before 2023, then make sure you make that change in the question. If you're writing, for example, earlier it would say analyze the benefits of internal recruitment. You would write analyze one benefit of internal recruitment. So make sure that you're answering for what the examiner would want in your papers, which is 1 point for 5 mark, 1 point for 3 mark, 2 points for 8 marks. Okay, they will be mentioned in the question, so read carefully. So whether it's a 5 mark question, if it 1 point, if it's an 8 mark question, then all you need to do is find another point about the same concept. The requirements remain the same. So if it was a 5 marker, your knowledge will amount for 1 mark, application 2 marks, and analysis for 3 marks. Now the reasons for knowing this and remembering these is because you need to know how much time to spend or how much space to dedicate to each section within your answer, right? So we like to explain things, define things, and mention things because we remember them, but it's just 1 out of 5 marks for knowledge. So what's the point of writing, lines and lines of things that are not adding to your marks? So be smart about it. You need to know what the examiner wants and bring your format in that level of detail. Okay. Yes, one positive opinion would be considered as 1 point in analysis. Calix, the question itself will tell you what you need to talk about. They will tell you either talk about advantage, disadvantage, limitation, benefit. So they make our lives easier by pointing you in the right direction. How you have to explain is obviously entirely up to you. Okay, so that was saying for a 5 marker, you need 1 line for 1 mark for application, two for application, and 2 for analysis. For an 8 marker, this changes slightly. Right? In an 8 marker, what you need to do, and I'm going to choose a different color for this so it's obvious, is that you need to make 2 paragraphs. Why? Because what you need to do is that you need to write 2 paragraphs because we know that they ask for 2 points. And each paragraph, I like Calix. Okay, Vaji. So for each paragraph, what you need to do is show these things. That there is knowledge about the concept that you asked about. I can show it in a business situation, so that's application. And I can tell you what the benefits and drawbacks are. So it's just slightly different from a 5 marker. In a 5 marker, we were still doing all of these things, knowledge, application, analysis. We're still doing them here in an 8 marker, knowledge, application, analysis. The only difference is in an 8 marker, we do it twice. So let me show you a 5 marker first, and then we'll go into the 8 marker. So in this paper, this was the 5 marker. And what I'm going to do next, and I know it's a bit last minute to be teaching you new tricks, but if you can repeat this process, because this is how I approach all my questions. If you repeat this process, then you're making sure that, the examiner is hooked to your answer. That's what we want. We want the examiner to be hooked. You want your answer to tell a story. And your answers is basically your way of writing down your conversation, right? It's how you would explain any concept to me, an examiner saying, explain it on a piece of paper. So, make it a nice conversation. Make it something that the examiner wants to read. And the examiner wants to read in the form of knowledge, application, analysis. So present it to them, right? So when it comes to knowledge, 5 mark questions, I like calling this L1. Level 1, identify number of marks. This is what we have. And what we know is that knowledge is 1, application is 2, and analysis is 2. If I give these things to the examiner will give me 5 marks. Okay. Then the question becomes, where is knowledge, application, analysis, evaluation in the question? Right? And this is that extra sauce that I have prepared for you guys. This is how you break down the question so that you never go off point. The way to do that is, if you want to know what to write in the knowledge part of your answer, and this is the format that I'll be taking you through, that this is what it takes to write a 5 marker. You need to first know what knowledge is so that you can start the first third of your answer. You need to know what the application part is, which will be here, and the analysis, which will come here. So you need to spot them. They are hiding in your question. The way to identify knowledge is obviously read the question and look for that one word or a couple of words or a term that you can define in a single line business definition. Okay, business definition in one line, not something that takes a paragraph. So, question which says analyze one reason why product differentiation may be important to a business. I can read this whole line again and again, but every time I see product differentiation, this is that one concept that I know I've learned about in marketing, and I can surely define this if I had to. So what I do is that simply write KN on top of that, meaning that as long as in my answer I'm talking about product differentiation, I will get awarded my 1 mark for knowledge. Right? That way you guarantee that 1 mark, and that way you know exactly what you need to talk about in your answer. Nothing more, nothing less. It's see, getting a USP is a result of the process of product differentiation. So first, product differentiation is making your product stand out, and as Isa rightly points out, it's a way of marketing and showing that how your product has better qualities than other people. And basically, the result of product differentiation is competitive advantage. Competitive advantage leads to obviously more sales, and that competitive advantage could be anything, right? It could be let's say I'm the product differentiation of Alt Academy, and that's why you guys are here. So whatever is setting you apart from everyone else, and that's giving you the advantage to bring the customers to you, that's what product differentiation is, right? A unique feature is a USP, but the process behind it is product differentiation. Okay, I hope that answers your question. So we were just dissecting our question here into knowledge, application, analysis. We know what knowledge is. Application is, and normally in a 12 marker, they will tell you a particular type of business, cell phone manufacturer, mining company or whatever. But in a 5 and an 8 mark question, they will leave that entirely open. So here you see that they've only mentioned a business, nothing more, a business. So a business means that you can use any terms that you know about from your knowledge of business to explain that how a business uses product differentiation. So in a 5 and 8 markers, like I said, this would be my application, and this is any business situation. You have the freedom of the world, right? You can sell him a few brands through product. Absolutely, Isa. So the reason for having product differentiation, and remember, product differentiation means you've gone through a process of research, product development, and all of that. So it's costed you already. You want to make some of that money back. And unless your product is different, you won't be able to make that money back quicker. So charging higher prices, that benefit is a result of product differentiation. And actually, that's that whole thing that you've just said is what you need to write in this answer, just with more words. Yeah, that's right. Non-copyrights, music, sound, whoever you are. School name. So we know what the knowledge part in this question is. We know what the application part is. Now the analysis. The analysis will be very, very obvious question in the question. This is a smaller question within the 5 mark question, if that makes sense. It reminds me of those smaller balloons within a larger balloons. I don't know if you guys have seen them. It always fascinated me how that works. How do they put in the smaller balloon in the larger balloon and have multiple? Anyways, I'll figure it out another day. So now we need to know the analysis part. What is the question really asking us? And the question is asking us, why is it important? Now, when anything is important to a business, it's because they want some sort of a benefit from it, or they want to stay away from a loss. So what this question is basically talking to me about is that when a business does product differentiation, I try to rephrase it in my mind that when a business goes for differentiation, why do they do that? And as long as my tone has that answer, my answer has that tone. Wow. My answer has that tone. It was a tongue of slip. So as long as I have that tone in my answer, I know that I am meeting the requirements of the examiner, and I'm going to write exactly what I want to write about. So that way, you're not going off point in anywhere, and those directions where, those won't lead to good marks. This one does. So If you do this, then how do you project this into an answer? Let me show you that now. Some more wizardry. Here's my beautiful wand. Harry Potter, but a local edition. So the question is, I thought it might slide, Vaji, but you guys are really clever. You're picking up on things. So now, the first thing I need to do, since I know my knowledge is product differentiation, I can start my answer by simply defining what product differentiation is. Right? And a lot of you have just done it right now in the chat window. Product differentiation basically is setting apart from competition. Whatever as definition. By the way, these could be things that you've learned in your glossaries. Obviously, the whole glossary is available on the platform, so you guys can access it at any time. So this is just your best knowledge about that concept. You don't have to convince them of your knowledge here. You just need to let them know that, look, examiner man, come here. I know what you're asking me, so I'm going to tell you face to face. And this is really that moment, just that calm before the storm. That's what's happening. You're just laying down the law. And the law is that I know product differentiation. Here is the definition. And I'm going to tell you why it's important within the first few lines. And why is it important? Because it gives you a competitive advantage. Right? Now, the moment I claim this, that this is the advantage, and that's what the question is asking me. Why is it important? Because we got to do this. We're going to share the glossary link with you here in the chat window. So since this is what I'm claiming, then I need to basically project this and write this down in my answers. And that's where the later part of my answer comes in, application and analysis. So the application is, first of all, I need to explain who does product differentiation and how do they do it. Shahir, so product differentiation is the process that leads to the creation of a USP, right? Product differentiation is not one feature. Product differentiation is a process, conducting research, trial and error, different types of product development. And then when you come to that differentiating feature of your product, which you can call, look, this is my USP, that's then the unique point. Yeah. So Nicole, the words that you use, CAIE are very, very clear in saying this, that look, your composition of sentences could be in any form. This doesn't have to be Shakespearean English. Where art thou, my love? This doesn't need to be that. The composition, the vocabulary, none of that matters. The way you don't have to present the exact same definitions from your books. They're more understanding than that. So, just as long as you are talking about what you know is right, and the examiner is able to understand that, and whatever words you use, that's completely fine. I've never learned a definition. Anytime two different students ask me about the same concept, I'll probably end up explaining them in different words, and that's completely fine. It just means that you have a better handle of the English language, so it's completely cool. Right, so that was saying we were talking about product differentiation and how it gives a competitive advantage. I need to then explain this here, that how would a business do that? So I would explain here that maybe, and remember your application has 2 marks here. So it needs to have at least 2 layers. So I'll, excuse me, I will say that this is, first of all, conducted or done by marketing department. Right? Obviously, they do a lot of their own research which includes consumer preferences, consumer choices, and then I go through a process of product development to find a unique feature. Right? And here, if you want, you can give an example of a business where they may have a unique feature, and you might know, or you could come up with something. For example, online access. Right? So what I'm doing here, This is my example. What I'm doing here is simply showing how this product differentiation comes about, who does it, where does it come from. So marketing, after conducted research and finding out what consumers want, can find out that the unique feature is what's going to make you stand out, and that unique feature could be online access to a product, right? So yeah, so M2 splashy. Yeah. So look, if it's 2 out of 5 marks for application, then at least 40% of your marks depend on application. So I would think, my friend, that you should be spending this much time. So yes, it is required. And what's important here is that it's explaining what I've already mentioned in my knowledge part. That look, I'm talking about differentiation, I'm talking about a competitive advantage, and what's the competitive advantage? Well, it's this unique feature. And was it allowing me to do? It's allowing me to obviously do many things with it. So as soon as I do this, at online access, this, that, etc., then I get into my analysis part, which is obviously the pros and cons and why is it important. Remember, we're talking about the importance. The importance is that you want to gain competitive advantage. You are in a competitive industry, so you need that. And having a USP, which is the result, as we've been talking about, result of product diff, we can charge higher prices. And this is where the most important point about analysis that I have to give to you comes in. So listen carefully. For you to be absolutely sure that you've done the analysis part of a question right, remember that your analysis will not be complete unless you mention the impact on either profit, sales, or what we also call revenue, cost, or output. Why? Because your analysis is simply the impact on the business. And an impact could be positive or negative. And since we want to know about the impact on a business, what does a business think about day or night in its dreams? Profit, revenue, cost, and output. So as long as you can show the impact on a business in any one or multiple of these terms, that's when you know you are rightly giving the examiner the analysis that they're looking for. So here, when I'm looking to complete this, that look, they have a USP, it allows them to charge a higher price. What this means is that this is what's going to lead to more sales and eventually more profit. So this is your punchline. This is your knockout blow. This is where you are sealing your answer. That look, I can tell you how something like product differentiation impacts a business. And how it does that is through this answer. So if I were to read this all together, I will come to your comments in 1 minute. Let me just read this whole thing. So this would sound like product differentiation is the process of setting your product apart from your competition to gain an advantage. This is done by the marketing department after conducting research and figuring out what consumer preferences are and adding a unique feature to your product, which may include etc., etc. This is important because it allows the business to gain a competitive advantage and develop a USP, which will then in turn allow the business to charge a higher price and result in more sales and eventually more profit. And this, by the way, is not a full page. This is like half a page, but just balanced. It's got a structure, it's got swag, it's got that panache to it, I think. Or I'm thinking too much of myself. But either way, I feel more confident giving this to an examiner than anything else. So this is how I would approach a 5-mark question. And now I have a lot of your questions. Let's see what we have from our young brains. So the application is more centered to the... Oh, yes, absolutely, Aiza. Brilliant. So your application is a result of your definition. Your definition is a result of identifying the right knowledge. Yeah, absolutely. We gain competitive by branding products through market research, various features upon products that can be differentiated. Yeah, absolutely right, Mr. Music. So in analysis, wait, there's more. So one must apply the application, so much they apply. Yes, Vaji. A lot of application and applying the application, but you get the application of it. Yes. Well done, applicant. Yeah, and yeah, so the application is more centered toward the non-business. Yeah, so the business part comes in on the impact. It's the end part, right? And the particular business you don't have to mention because they don't ask for a particular business. That we reserve for a 12 marker. Yes, Shahid. Remember, market share means more sales. That's another word for that. You're gonna growth means you'll be able to sell more. So you're thinking about the right things. And I love your display picture. I think that's William Defoe, isn't it? It's from one of those movies, if I'm not wrong. Okay, lots of comments. So I'm loving this. Sorry, I don't want to get caught up in this too much. But okay. I like money. Me too. In knowledge, we discuss the key term that is mentioned in the question. Yes, Aiza. Perfect. What do you mean by the last bit? How would increase the sales? Isn't it revenue? So revenue, when I say sales, I mean revenue. Revenue and sales is the amount of money, right? Now, I'm not worrying about the concept of price elasticity of demand. I am assuming here, excuse me, like citrus parables, that people won't reduce the quantity that they are buying right now. If everything remains the same, then at more price, I make more revenue. At the same quantity and a higher price, I make more revenue and in turn more profit. So you can assume, making that assumption, the examiners don't have a problem with that. Knowledge is definition, application is application is take that definition and explain how does a business see it happening, right? If I, let's say, let's be open about this. Like, if I think this whole session is a hit, if that happens, what's the concept? The concept comes from marketing, live. How is it impacting the business? Well, we had our sound problems. There is this, there is me, there is cameras and all of that. So this is how things are moving about right now. But what the impact is, then, if you guys are here, you like this, and we talk to you more again, that's the benefit. So the benefit is the analysis. What the business is seeing right now happening to make this possible, that's application. And what concept does it come from? Like marketing, education. So those layers are basically what you need in your answer. I start streaming. I can certainly start streaming. I'm gonna have to find more time. I was a football coach once back in the day, not too long, actually, yeah, back in the day. So maybe I can start a channel of that. Maybe kicking and teaching business. Ooh, there's an idea. So if a question asks one reason for importance of cash flow, what would the implication? So cash flow is always linked to liquidity. Think about any business situation where liquidity is a problem. For example, holding inventory. So I would think about when operations brings in inventory required and doesn't sell it, then inventory requires money. And if there is not enough cash flow, then you have liquidity problems. So get to the root of it. Where does it come from? Who would cause it? Well, inventory causes cash flow problems. Right, Muiz? Battling CAIE exams, episode 1. Oh, yeah. Killing that business beast. Yeah. It can determine if a business has enough working to conduct. Yeah, so it can conduct if it has day-to-day. So that's the application of cash flow. How you would explain is that, let's say the question was, analyze one reason why cash flow is important to a business, right? Let's make up our own question. So I would explain cash flow is the inflow and outflow of cash managed by a business to ensure that it has no liquidity problems. Then I go into application. That a business may order inventory when it does not have enough sales, which means that there is inventory buildup. And if there is a lot of unsold stock, more and more cash gets tied up in those raw materials and finished goods that are not being sold, which means that you have lesser ability to meet your short-term debts. That is lack of liquidity and may lead to inability to meet your bills or meet your expenses or conduct day-to-day expenses. There's a question. So this is always a good question. Should we always give an example in the application? Is it necessary? So when you say example, right? In my mind, I'm thinking you're thinking about a real life business and you want to mention that in there. That's not a good idea, right? What they want to see is that whatever you've mentioned in knowledge, right? In this question, it was product differentiation. Just explain that in business terms. Often we feel that we have to mention a real business name. Often students also feel that they have to mention business A versus business B versus business C, and there's multiple layers. If you want to do that, that's completely fine, but it often leads to a lot of confusion as well. So what I recommend is, just keep it about business terms. Just mention marketing does this, operations, finance, just keeping it that basic without going to examples is fine. Examples are recommended for a 2-mark question where, we have to discuss 2 points of knowledge. And if you're struggling to find the second point, that's you give an example. That's where you give an example. Anywhere else, there's not enough value for an example. It's a request. Okay, Ramesh, I will put your request forward and bring economics on our platform as well. I know paper 2 can be challenging. I'm actually an economics graduate, so I know what you mean. What if there is if there's 2 definitions of the question? What a smart question, blank. You are not blank at all. So if there's 2 definitions in the question or 2 words that you didn't define, you define both of them. And if there's 2 definitions that are required to define, then there will definitely be some connection between them. So you find that connection and basically explain both of them. Let's say the question was analyze one reason why business choose to move from job production to batch production, right? Clearly 2 definitions. Mention both. That when you go from job, which is customization, to batch, making in groups, a company will have to bring in more machinery, for example. So that way, and smartly, I'm talking about both the definitions, yet I'm also telling them what happens when you put both of them together. Calix, I think if I never need a moderator, I think who to call? Vaji. Okay, so in knowledge part, we have to define product information, tell what it is about. Yeah, yes, Siraj. In analysis, can we say that it may be important to a business if not proper cash flow subject? Yeah, absolutely. See, what you're talking about, that lack of liquidation and that's a real impact on the business. So that's completely fine for analysis. Sorry, Arif, I am so sorry. Actually, at that point, we were struggling with voice and how my hair looked, to be honest. But for paper 2, it's so close, as in it's on the 10th, right? There's only very little time, but I will try my best. If I can bring one on Tuesday, I will talk to my team today, and then I will do my absolute best to be at your service for that as well. If I can, I will definitely be there. Okay, and you'll hear from us, don't worry. We all appeal and request for economics. Business guy, Ali is super cool. Even I would love to be in his live session. So maybe I'll give him a call after this. Okay. Right, so I wanna tackle the 12 marker as well before I have to go. Maybe I can stretch this for another 15 minutes, but I know it's the 12 markers that are often challenging. Obviously they're the last ones, and so I want to tackle that. We've looked at a 5 marker, and as I explained to you earlier, the only difference between a 5 and an 8 marker is that, look, in a 5 marker, they said analyze one reason why product, etc., etc. If you look at an 8 marker, it says analyze 2 benefits to a business of low labor turnover. Right? So same process, same structure, knowledge, application, analysis. But the difference is, first you mention the definition, you go into its application, analysis, you change paragraphs, go to the next point's application, go to the next point's analysis, and there is your 8 marker. Let me quickly construct this one for you. Okay, when I read this question, and from the process that I've just explained to you of breaking down the question, I can identify here that They want me to talk about labor turnover. So this part is my knowledge. They want me to particularly talk about low labor turnover for a business. So that situation will be application. And they want me to talk about benefits only. So that's my advantages of having low labor turnover. So again, in my mind, if I'm reframing this, I'm thinking, well, if a business has low labor turnover, that's step number one. Are there any advantages? That's step number two. And that tone, when you rework the question and bring it to the words that you understand in your mind, I think your answer structure becomes that much better. So I'll do one paragraph, then you'll obviously know how to do the next one. In this one, again, start with knowledge. And please make separate paragraphs for the 2 points. Again, the point of paragraphs isn't to be, politically and Englishly correct. It's about telling the examiner when to really focus on your answer. So when you make a paragraph, I've checked a lot of answers. When you make paragraphs, I then have to pause and really concentrate again that, okay, something important is going to happen. Look, he's going to do something. So that's the moment that you have. If you don't make paragraphs, often the examiner just reading through it, then they would feel that, oh, it's the same old point coming in and they're just going blah, 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 and maybe that's not the way to do it. So I always recommend that whenever there's a big change in your answers, so a new point and all of that, that's when you need to make a paragraph. And it's just a visual cue, nothing else. It's just a visual cue to the examiner that, hold on, buddy, you got to pay attention. I've got something else to talk about here. There's more tricks. Oh, I don't have a pocket. There's more tricks up my short sleeve. So that's all that it does. Now, when I start this, I know that a safe place to begin, as soon as my iPad allows me to do it, is by writing a definition. And here it would be simply what labor turnover is. So labor turnover is workers when workers leave. So workers leave. And this is maybe due to demotivation or let's say low pay. So just mention why it is caused. Right? Who's responsible for it? It's the human resource department. So as much as you know about the concept, just in the opening paragraph, 2-3 lines, mention that. So Isa, you just need to define in the first paragraph. There is no knowledge part in the second paragraph. I'll just show it to you. Okay. So now I need to first identify what is the benefit of low labor turnover. Remember, application is about the situation, and they want me to discuss what low labor turnover means. Okay. Now, low labor turnover is where fewer workers are leaving the organization. Right? You have to explain what that means in business terms. Like I said, you have to create that scenario in application. You have to show to them that, look, this is how the business will be viewing this change occurring. That's simply your application. And if you have low labor turnover, then Jinx, why Jinx? Can we write the formula? You can include the formula and the definitions as well as this part of knowledge. That's absolutely fine. So once you explain what low labor turnover is, you have to explain why this would be happening. Why would people want to stick around? When few workers are leaving, this could be because there is high levels of motivation. Right? So now I've got, and obviously I'm just writing in shorthand, you will put more words into this. I've got enough of a basis here to explain how a business will benefit from this. When few workers are leaving, what it means that there is a less need for replacing them. And what this does is that it reduces your recruitment and your training costs. Remember, no new people coming in means you don't have to train them and recruit them. And once that happens, the benefit to the business is that it reduces their overall labor cost. And when costs go down, we know what happens. Your profits go up. Remember, analysis is punchline. Punchline is either the discussion on profit, sales, cost, or output, right? And I guess cash flow. I guess that's also important. So at this point, when you've written the first paragraph, this is where either leave a line or just a little space at the start. And here you start explaining the next scenario, that when few people are leaving. So again, the scenario is still low labor turnover. You're explaining what this means is that instead of saying few people are leaving, I'll say more people are staying around. Just same thing, but in other words, that will do it. More workers are being retained. Right? What this leads to is more job satisfaction. Right? You can also have, let's say, I guess satisfaction leads to more motivation. You can bring in another layer of that. And then you simply you're more than welcome. I'm very happy to be doing this. In fact, I've been itching to do this, just waiting for the right moment. And I'm glad I have you guys for company. Good job, team. Anyways, so coming back to this, more motivation and all of this means that, you have higher output. Higher output means you have more productivity, more products being made. More products being made means that there is no fall in efficiency. Again, those big words that show you the impact on the business. And this eventually leads to higher output, better quality. More motivated workers will also bring better quality. So that's what you're bringing for in the end for this. Oh yeah, brilliant. So another thing you can do here is that in any HR answer, what really then gets you that, those 2 marks that you need, that 7 and 8, we get to 6. But the good way to guarantee that 7th and 8th mark in HR is to mention any theory if you can find here, right? For example, we're talking about low labor turnover. Low labor turnover, we can say that, for example, Herzberg said that you need to provide hygiene factors, right? And this is a way of doing that by keeping them motivated. You at least prevent any demotivation. So that's the way you will structure your 8-mark questions. And as you can see, it's just along a 5-marker, nothing more, but with 2 paragraphs. Whew, okay. Terminator water. For those, that's the reference for only those of you who were here from the beginning, who heard me talk like this. It wasn't me. So can there be more output because yeah, absolutely. So less people leaving means there's higher output. That's what we mentioned here, right? Higher output because people are sticking around. There is, if your labor is there and not leaving, that means your machines will be fully used, and your labor will being there means your land is being fully used, which is basically what we call capacity utilization. You could have also mentioned here that there's more output, more product, which means that there's higher capacity utilization. If the workers aren't there, the machines would be useless. They don't work by themselves, right? Okay, so time to tackle the last beast you're going to see in your question papers, and this one is a 12-mark. Okay? Now, before I get into the 12-mark question, let me tell you that your targets for Section A. Yeah, your Section A will be 20 marks. Section A will be 20 marks. Section A will be comprised of 2, 3, and 5-mark questions. Section B, you have to answer 1 8 and 1 12 marker. Now, for your Section A, you need I shouldn't say you need, but you must want to finish your section A in 30 minutes, right? It's easily doable. According to my calculations, you should be able to do it in 25 to 26 minutes and still have time left over to check if you've done it correctly. So half an hour is what and if you're practicing at home the next couple of days, that's the target that you want to keep yourself. 30 minutes for section A, which means and then you will have 45 minutes for section B. And you will need that because when you divide that up, you give your 8-mark question anywhere between 15 to 18 minutes. Okay? 8-mark question, 15 to 18 minutes. And your 12-marker, then 22 to 25 minutes. Depending on how much more time you take on an 8-marker, that's how much less time you will take in your 12 markers. But those are sort of the time blocks that you need to work with. Okay? Because we often, what I've seen students being guilty of is that they see a question that they really like and they will spend so much time on it, not thinking that this is actually not worth as much and it's not worth spending that much time on as some other one. So have those mental blocks. What I always did in my exams, I would always have my watch sitting on the desk and staring at me, and I would have timers that 15 minutes. Okay, now I have to be done with this question. If I'm done with it, I'm done with it. If I'm not done with it, I'm going to move on to the next one. And when I save the time there, then I'm going to come back to this one. So, if that works for you, that's fine. It worked for me, but look, everybody has different way of learning. I get that. And also and writing. So, the whole paper is of 40 marks, 20 marks each section. And first section is easy, 30 minutes. And you can easily score a 17 on 20 from section A. Trust me, you will need to as well, because as you go on to section B, your 8 marks, maybe you can score well, but 12 marker, there's a lot of evaluations, so that might get tricky. And then your paper 2 will be slightly more difficult, paper 3 more, paper 4 even more. So paper 1, section A gives you the best chance to guarantee that A in A2, and after the whole papers are done, if you are off to the right start with paper 1, section A. So those 20 marks in section A are like low-hanging fruit. Don't let it fall to the floor. Make sure you do them well. We've seen how to answer 2, 3, 5-mark questions. So just guarantee those marks. Even if it means taking 2 to 3 minutes more, that's fine. But guarantee. Remember, they both work the same, section A and section B. If there are easier questions in section A and you get the same 20 marks, then I would spend more time on that relatively in section B as I would have before. Okay? Don't be doomed. It's only paper 1. I guess you guys haven't seen paper 4s yet. Yeah, of course. Don't be scared. This is doable. Look, this is stuff that you've seen before. You already know. The nervousness that you feel right now, trust me, I understand. Without that nervousness, you won't be able to do well. You won't be able to do well in your exams. You need to worry about your exam to really care about it. If you care about it, you'll do well in it. So, if you're doomed right now, the only way is up. That's the only thing I can say. So, do not worry. Now, let's look at the 12 marker as I promised. Your 12 marker will either start with the word evaluate, discuss, or recommend. Okay? Evaluate, discuss, or recommend. And here, they don't specify the number of points. This is for AS. This is AS paper 1 only. Okay? So, in 12 markers, they don't specify the number of points that you have to identify, that you have to explain. But what I recommend is that you need to divide your answer into 3 parts. Okay, let's say sorry, just give me a minute. Let's say this bar here represents your answer. From here to here is your 12 mark. Whoa, where did my screen go? I'm sorry, just give me a second. This just a glitch with my screen. And okay, what did I do? Yeah, sorry about that. So, as I was saying, if this bar represents your 12 marker, then what you need to do is divide it into 3 parts. So, part 1, part 2, part 3. In the first part, whatever the question's asking you, first half you will spend in supporting it, right? Or either parts, just if they're giving you 2 points to comparison, then you'll talk about one of your points first. So anything you have to say in support of a concept, that's one half. Then anything that you have to say in opposition, that oh no, this won't work, or this is something they're going to figure out, that's in the second half. So in my mind, I'm thinking this is about 33% of your answer, this is about 33% or 1/3 of your answer, and the last one, this is where you have to give a judgment, right? A recommendation, something that allows you to decide. Decide what? The decision is between these two. Okay, sorry. I've just been informed that you couldn't see my screen. Can you see my screen now jumping around? Yeah, sorry about that. Is it okay now? Yeah, I think so. I think we're good to go. So, right? Yes. Thank you, Arif. So as I was saying that you need to, if this is your 12 marker, you need to divide it into 3 halves. The first half, and the question will tell you that discuss whether a cell phone manufacturer could spend money on secondary research before launching a new product, right? So the question is going to have very, very specific parts, and it's going to ask you something like, well, should a cell phone manufacturer go for secondary research? So what you'll do in this a question like this is, here, let's say the question is asking about secondary research. In the first half of my answer, I'll say things in support that yes, they should do this because these are the advantages, disadvantages. Against, in my second half, saying that no, maybe they should do primary research instead of secondary research. So 2 halves, both 1/3 of your answer, one saying things in support of it, one saying things in obviously opposition for it. But since this is an evaluation question and a 12-mark question, they require that you give your judgment. And judgment means that you have to give a decision. That should they go ahead with only secondary research? Should they also do primary research? Or are there other things that they need to look at before determining, well, which one of the two is better? Okay, so I'm going to show you a question, and maybe that's perhaps going to shed more light onto it. But before we go there, just want to highlight that in a 12 marker, you get 2 marks for knowledge, 2 for application, 2 for analysis, and 6 for evaluation. So half your answer is just about how well you're able to decide. And remember, 6 does not mean half the length of your answer is evaluation. It means the correctness, it means the logic, it means the reasoning needs to be correct for your decision. If you're doing that, you should be okay. So let me take you to the 12 marker that this question paper had. And it's a question on working capital. All right. Okay. So wait, there's a comment. In 12 markers, when the question is asking you regarding a specific division of business, asking what supply chain management is more important operational objective, we must evaluate in terms of operational objectives, right? What are other ways we should evaluate? Yes, so definitely evaluate in terms of the objectives. Then since this is about operations, if they ask you to evaluate that, think about any other concept, any other chapter that you can remember from operations. For example, I would also bring in that, look, supply chain management means that it also depends on how much inventory you need. So you need to make sure that your inventory management is fine, and inventory management is fine, which is also part of operation. I will also say that supply chain management is important, but it is only important if you're operating at full capacity. If you're not operating at full capacity, then you don't need perhaps that speed in supply chain management. You know what I mean? So it's always a good idea to explore the other chapters in that unit when you're thinking about evaluating a question from a particular unit, right? So for example, the question you had is from objectives. I would explore every other part of objectives first of all, then definitely objectives, and then definitely, does this have any link with any other department? So for example, supply chain management means that you are either buying raw material and you are supplying it to your customers, right? So there is some element of involvement of marketing in it. So I will also evaluate that, look, you can do all your supply chain management that you want, but if marketing is not able to sell the product, then your own supply chain will always get clogged. It will always be stuck, and that leads to more cost. That leads to more losses. Leads to more, warehousing costs and all of that. So, when you're thinking of evaluation, divided into 3 layers. In fact, the best thing I think what I can tell you for evaluation is this. You were going to thank me for this, okay? So anyways, we've discussed knowledge, application, and analysis. I have to be going soon, so I'm going to do my best to summarize this for you guys. When it comes to evaluation, provide a judgment on whether your analysis will work or not work. Meaning that will not work means, one, you would have talked about supporting an argument. The other side, you would have talked about going against it. And then in terms of its evaluation, you need to be dividing it into these 3 layers. This is like a checkpoint. This is like a checklist, that when it comes to evaluation, if you do these 3 things, which, where is the other page? If you do these 3 things, you should be okay. First, okay, level 1 of evaluation. What are you thinking about? Write about a concept that is closely linked to knowledge. For example, if a question is, since a computer manufacturer is taking a loan, if let's say computer manufacturer is taking a loan, the question is talking about sources of finance. You can mention other sources of finance which can be good replacement for a bank. So for example, a question we had today was, would you think that working capital is the most important financial matter for the survival of a business? So we will obviously say, yeah, working capital is important, but in terms of its replacement or other options, that's what you bring someone else. Some other concept, not someone else. For level 2, talk about a related concept from the same unit. And that's what I just explained, that if the question's on operations and if it's asking you about, let's say, capacity utilization, then you explore inventory, you explore nature of operations and try to see whether that will have some implications on this. So let's say if you had a question on finance, that the question was, I think I have a question here as well. Where is that question? Yeah, this is the question. Discuss whether taking a bank loan is the most appropriate source of finance for a computer manufacturer looking to expand. Right? This is what the question is asking me to talk about. If this is the question, then obviously I will talk about taking a bank loan. But the moment I give a recommendation that, look, you could also do something else. And to do this, you can take a venture capitalist or you can convert to a public limited. Your recommendations are the first level of evaluation. I'll come to all your comments in just 1 minute. Let me just, I want to make sure this comes through to you properly. Then when you've given your recommendation, think about anything else from that unit, not just from that chapter, from that unit that might be useful. So this question, which is on sources of finance, I would probably talk about some other concepts. So you can mention cash flow. That, look, sources of finance are important. You need to obviously buy machinery, you need to bring in raw materials and all of that. But if you forget about maintaining your cash flow or paying your interest or budgets to be followed, then no matter how good your sources of finance are, you won't be able to survive. So that's like a judgment. That's something that I want the business to focus on beyond just focusing on sources of finance. So that's level 2, right? First be direct, then explore that unit, and then see at level 3 if you can find something from a different function or a different unit that can help you to bring another light to this. Since this question was from finance, you can mention operations, HR, or marketing, for example, that you are bringing in all this money But if you're not able to sell, it won't happen. You're bringing in this machinery, but if operations is not able to, be efficient, then that's not going to be very, very useful for you. So there are multiple layers to evaluation, and the beauty of evaluation is that there is no right or wrong way of doing it. Every student will have their own way of doing it.
You're muted. So just open it again, it should work. And again, आपका screen, you change the screen, I think.
got it, got it.
Right? वो play का button दबा दें left पे. हाँ, ऊपर ये this one.
Yeah, sorry about that. I know my voice went again. my setup guy keeps shouting at me, "Sir, you are doing this. Have you forgotten?" I'm so sorry, my friend, and I'm so sorry to you guys. I'm learning. And then I promise you it will be better next time. But that's my 2 cents on your paper one. That's all the things that I see in a paper one. That's all the things that I want you to think about when you are when you are approaching your paper one. And now I'll look to answer some of your questions that are piled up here. Please save the live afterwards. It will be available on our channel, so do not worry about that. For this question, based on finance division, we would evaluate based on other sources of finance. Yeah, so Isaac, not just internal and external, just internal and external discussion would be level 1 of the evaluation. You would think about, well, what are the other things that are important besides sources of finance? Or what are the other departments whose involvement is important before knowing sources of finance? So, it needs to be more broad. And with evaluation, just go with your gut feeling. This seems right. This judgment, this recommendation. It's always the way to do it. And questions like when they ask to explain or analyze benefits or drawbacks, do we start writing with the benefit first or with the definitions? So always start with the the knowledge part first, which might be a definition or just mentioning what the drawback is, and always bring that the analysis should be the ending part of your answer. It shouldn't be like don't straight away write your answer that, look, the benefit of doing product differentiation is more profit. That's the wrong way to approach it. You need to bring in application and analysis. And in case if you missed this, the earlier part of this session, we looked at 2, 3, 5, and 8 markers individually and how to answer that. I guarantee you look at that, you will know exactly what you will have to do. Yes, Aiza, I think you've got it right. You've got to think about other sources, size of business, availability of finance. Can you sell more shares, or you have to bring loans? Anything that helps you to make that decision about which is the right source of finance. Okay, always thought evaluation, but blank. So advantages and disadvantages is just your analysis. Evaluation, my friend, evaluation is just another word for recommendation. Best thing I can tell you, I keep saying that all the time, but one more best thing I can tell you is that if you are repeating your earlier points in your evaluation, then your evaluation is wrong. Evaluation is always the next phase of your answer. It's the next page that you want to show to your examiner, which means the next scenario that the business sees. And advantages and disadvantages you would have already discussed as analysis. So if you've already done that and you start repeating that, I said this in the answer before, hence this, that's not right. Your evaluation is showing a new phase to that answer. It's showing that, look, if you're choosing appropriate source of finance and if you're thinking about bank loan, first paragraph, I'll discuss the advantages and disadvantages of a bank loan. Second paragraph, I'll say, oh, you can sell shares, and I'll discuss the advantages and disadvantages of those. And then the final paragraph, which is evaluation, that's where I'll say, when deciding between these two, you should look at what's easy, what is available, size of business, is your cash flow in place to be able to give the interest, or did you have enough profit to be able to pay dividends? So you start exploring this further a little bit more. And that's how evaluation then comes together. Can we have, sir, can we have those notes? Do you mean this graphic here? Yes, I will ask my moderator to share this document with you guys in this chat window here. Just the link if we can, so that our wonderful audience can also benefit from this. I also have something similar for paper 2. I'll also be sharing that. Ali, if you are done with the past papers, that means you would be done with your content. And if you're done with your content, my friend, I recommend go with your gut feeling and explain the concept without worrying about your English and whether this is the definition that was in the book or not. If you know the concept, you can explain it. If you can explain it, CAIE does not care whether your English is from the book or not. If you go through learning 200 definitions in the next 2 days, that's not advisable. So trust your knowledge. That would be my honest advice. If it's a recommend question, Nicole, if it's a recommend question, then you have to make a decision that, look, yes, take bank loan, or don't take bank loan, go for something else. But if it's a question which starts with the word evaluate or discuss, then you don't have to say one is better than the other one. If it's a discuss or evaluate question, then you simply need to show advantages and disadvantages of both and tell them, look, when deciding, just look at these other factors. That's your evaluation without taking a side. But if it's a decision, recommend question, then you have to. Paper 4, although it's difficult to answer it in a short few sentences, but for paper 4, assume that the easiest thing is that, and this is only for A2 paper 4. Anyone here for AS, this is not for you. For A2 P4, just assume that any one of the 5 strategy chapters can be tested. So there's just 5 chapters you need to learn about, and it can come through any combination. So the best thing to do is answer all the past papers. If you do those 7 or 8 past papers that you have available, that should be enough. Offer 1 Lay's chips packet for paper leak and still available, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Depends on what's the size of this packet of Lay's. Is this those 40 rupee ones, or am I looking at the 150 rupee bag? Yes, Ramesh, the connection to the objectives and your strategy is part of your evaluation, but also know that it's more than that as well, right? Your objectives obviously dictated, but also other factors such as the type of business you are, the size of business, the availability of resources, all those things should be looked at. Evaluation is literally, if I had to make a decision, then what are the things that I should look at? And as a business, there are 100 things they could look at. So be, a little exploratory in your approach, and with objective being there for sure, look at other things that also have an impact on your decision. I will do my best, Prosper. Paper 4 is, I know, it's a tough one, isn't it? It scares me too. Paper 4 is the kind of paper that makes me glad about having done with A-levels when I didn't have a paper 4. If you want to really memorize definitions, obviously you learn them by heart, give it to your mom, tell her that you sit and listen to me, mommy, and I'm going to tell you all the definitions. I swear I used to do that. And when she'd give me that mom stare, that's when I knew I got it wrong. So then I wouldn't do it again. Yes, Nicole, yes. For your evaluation, you can bring it points from other departments. But for your analysis and the main body of it, stick to the unit or the function that the question is from. Vishwa, like, it's hard for me to predict type of question, what question comes, but logic tells me, and what CAIE also tries to do is that they don't have a lot of past paper questions on the topics that were recently added, right? So topics such as capacity utilization, budgets, Boston matrix, sustainability, integration. So yeah, these topics. So I would especially keep an eye out for these, because I know they'll be looking to include them in the paper, because in the long run they want to have these papers as sample questions as well, right, in your past papers. So those will definitely be something that I would focus on. The other clue that you have, whatever questions were in the last exam series won't be asked again, so that's some way to reduce some of the work. But really the approach is, the way you should be approaching your paper is that you shouldn't worry about what question is going to come in the exam. You should, your approach should be, whatever question comes in my exam, I know the process of answering it. And that's what we learned here, right? We learned if it's a 2-marker, it could be a 2-marker from Mars, but I know it's a 2-marker which needs 2 points and 2 knowledge. So if you know the process, and obviously by now you would have gone through enough of the content, then that confidence is your best tool. Not, that certain topic is better than the other one. If we get questions on break-even, inventory management, basically concepts that have graphs, should we give reference to the graph? So there are no extra marks for any graphical representation. You can talk about it in essay form, but remember, these are your essay answer papers. So whatever you have to say must be in your essay forms. Blank 84, that the leaks that I had were all given out now. It's quite leaky now. So evaluation is recommendation plus the reasoning behind your recommendation. Why? So for example, if I was recommending taking a bank loan over going to a venture capitalist, then the reasoning behind taking the bank loan, let's say I'm making profits, so I will be able to pay my interest. That's the reason. Then that reason also becomes part of my evaluation. It's the duas that I'm here for, RF, anyways. So I will do my best to schedule in as many sessions as I can for this term. Again, I'll get my team in, and you will soon look for it. Just look for it on Instagram and other social media handles. More good news, more mithais coming your way. When I answer the evaluation, like definition, explanation, Ash, that's pretty much the format. In fact, if I can show you guys the format for a 12-marker, what I recommend is that if this is a 12-marker, you start it off the same way as an 8-marker. Bring in some definition with some knowledge, bring in first points application, then first point analysis, and just a little few lines of evaluation. That, for example, bank loans are good, but it means you have to keep paying interest for a long time. Then go to your second point. Oh, they could go for selling shares, blah, 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 the advantages and disadvantages. However, selling shares means that you will also have to give up control. And then in the last paragraph, that's where you bring in your judgment, your solution, your opinions, that look, between bank loan and selling shares, I think selling shares is better. And then the reasoning behind it. Why? Because you will only have to pay dividends when there is profit. When there is no profit, there is no cash outflow. So it's a safe way, right? So just supporting that. And for a bank loan, you will have to still pay interest even if the business shuts down. Whoa. Yeah. So just that part comes towards the end here. And just nice and neat. That's what you should do. Can we have the notes for all chapters? So the notes are available on our platform. You can sign if you're not a user. You can sign up as a free user, and you also get access to some of those notes, and obviously the rest as well when you join us officially. So have a look around. I'm sure you will love them. By the way, I've made those notes personally myself. I can tell you, actually with the help of my TH, who's a very nice to help me with this. And but it's a good teamwork, and you'll enjoy it. I stand behind the work. Can we value within a parent group? Yeah, absolutely, Abdulkader. So if you notice in my format, I evaluate each point right there. So you know the format that I was telling you about a little bit earlier. This would be my first paragraph with its evaluation, then my second one with its evaluation, and the third one, which is the full evaluation. So the examiner doesn't want you to reserve your evaluation just for the final paragraph. You can do it at any time, in any place in your answer. Who here is doing paper 1, 2? Okay, not for me. Ramesh, I will, like I said, economics, I will forward the word to our team. And yeah. Okay, guys, no, I'm not talking about revision notes. I'm talking about full detailed notes. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for being here. You know, can I be honest? I was thinking maybe, you know, one few people, but you guys have been awesome. As teachers, we love it when there's this interactivity and this, you know, you guys can't contain yourself, and I'm failing to contain myself. That's the way to do it. So I really enjoyed this, and I hope I can bring more of this. Paper 2, paper 3, paper 4, and economics, Ramesh. Yes. So I'll do all we can, and I think I can promise you in saying that there will be more sessions coming before each exam. So here is that link. Here you go, Manur. Thank you so much. For all of you who are looking for some glossaries, some links, and how to answer paper 1, paper 2, my recommendation is for the next 2 days, don't touch the content. What you know already is what you know. Now you need to just simply answer questions. Use this process that I've taught you for each question, and just do them in points form. As many you can do, the more confidence you will gain. And remember, you got this. I know you've got this, right? I know, I can feel that from the questions that you are asking, that this isn't stuff that, you know, you guys have no clue about. You know exactly what you want to write in your answer. So I want to wish you all the best. It's been lovely here. I apologize for the sound problems earlier, but once we got there, we were on it for a while, right? So thank you for being here, making this interactive. I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye. Adios.